Hey there, good evening, guys. How are you? Welcome to a Thursday night watch chat with Bobby Legs here, and I am joined by
Hey
my
there, good
friend
evening, guys. How are
Watch
you?
Chris. Oh, you have it on YouTube.
Thursday night watch chat with.
uh, there we go.
Sorry about
No, it's okay.
that.
Hey, we're live. Hey, it happens. We're on live streaming right now. Anyway, welcome everybody. Thursday night live chat with Bobby Legs, and joining me this evening, my friend Watch Chris. Watch Chris. Chris, how are you, man? Good to see you.
Good.
Haven't you've been? We did a stream, I think maybe like a year ago or so, a couple of them, right, on
Yeah.
Matt Stingray's channel, and then you came onto mine, and you know, uh, went really well, and I'm surprised it took us this long to get together to collaborate, but I'm glad you're joining us tonight. Um, hey, man, what are you wearing on wrist?
Today I am wearing. So this is actually not my watch. Um, Zenith actually lent me
Ah,
a Chronomaster Sport. Let's see.
do a little solo there. Yeah, very nice, awesome. How are
And
you liking
I
it?
have the chronograph running. This is the best part about this. Is a 1/10 chronograph, so
Yeah.
you're probably familiar, but I'll just show it to you guys. If you could see that
Oh
chronograph.
yeah, 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 yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, since it's not my watch, I leave it running continually. So
Mhm. Right, right. That's a beauty, man. I mean, like I've seen them in person only at an AD. Never didn't get to try one on. But how are you liking it?
So I two things. They sent me one that has been used. It's been pretty heavily used actually, so it's
Okay.
very scratched.
Yeah.
So when looking at it from top down, it looks new, but on the side I don't know what
Yeah.
they did to it, so it's pretty beat up.
Yeah.
Also, they didn't send me extra links, which I don't know.
Oh, no.
So they
You
just
have a big wrist, right?
yeah. So I
Yeah.
have a 7.5 inch wrist.
Yeah.
Literally this hand is going numb. So I've been trying to wear because I really want to wear it. I was so
Yeah.
excited, and I
Yeah.
have on. There's 5 positions of micro adjust, and ironically, it's on the last position, and they didn't send any links. So it's literally my hand like it will go cold, and I'm like, oh wait, I'll be holding a drink, and it'll just fall out of my hand.
Right.
So
Right.
the only thing that I was a little bit disappointed. I'm going to be completely honest here is the clasp. It's
Mm.
not there's like nothing special about it. It's almost like a Rolex homage.
Okay.
It
Yeah.
looks like a Submariner clasp without any on the fly micro adjust. So you don't have anything like that.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, a lot of people when it came out were like, "Oh, it looks like a Rolex, Daytona and blah blah
Yeah.
blah," and because of the ceramic bezel, it gets
Sure.
that ceramic bezel. It's 40 millimeters. The setup of it. I'm a little bit disappointed in that.
Yeah. Well, what is the list for? It's like a $10,000 watch, right? I mean, like,
I think it's like nine something. Yeah.
yeah, nine something, right? I mean, look, I mean, class. I've never really had much of an experience with the class that it's become like a deal breaker. But there's been a lot of watches that I've had over the years that the class was, they didn't stick the landing with the class, and it is what it is. Like, Zin comes to mind. You know what I mean? And and so, but that's a $2,000 or $3,000
I
watch
was gonna
compared
say
to
Zin. I mean,
yeah,
if you're spending $2,000 or $3,000 on a watch that's from a major brand like Zin, and they don't go the extra mile with the class, I get it, but
yeah,
$10,000,
yeah, yeah.
and if you're definitely, I mean, I think they were absolutely trying to target, the Daytona.
Hmm.
I mean, you have a Submariner.
Yeah,
The class that one of the best things about having a Rolex bracelet is part of it is the clasp. The
yeah,
clasp is they're amazing
yeah.
and that little bit of adjustment when you're on vacation. I just went on
Hmm.
vacation. Having a little bit of micro adjust on the fly
Yeah,
is priceless because it's different temperatures. You're
yeah,
coming from the cold, you're going to the hot, things like that. Just having a little bit of that.
yeah. In the summertime, it's definitely a plus for me. My wrist does swell back and forth. You know, significantly in the summertime, for me significantly. So and it's significantly enough that like an adjustment, on the fly adjustment, really makes sense. For me in wintertime, not so much,
Yeah.
but definitely in the summertime. Speaking of Rolex, I'm wearing my Submariner. Um, Great class, man. I got to tell you, this is the 41, the new one. So the class is just fantastic, and it wears great. So, Chris, let's say hello to the chat first, and then we'll get into our discussion. Um, hey, Bobby's here. Yes, Neff, why the octopus, Chris?
That's a good question. I don't know. When I really like I like the look of the octopus,
Yeah,
and it's just sort of
I like it. I
nautical
like your
theme.
I like your logo. I like it. Bill K's here. Hey, Peter C's here. You know Peter, right? I think.
Yes, Peter is.
Dan is here. Deech is here. Justin is strapped in. Wilson's here. Hey, Rick on watches. What's going on? Hobby Bobby. Pale Horse is here. Joey B. Cowboy Swami, what is up? Scatterbrain is here. Guys, let us know what you're wearing on wrist. Mike, how you doing, Mike? Thor, how you doing, Thor? And speaking of Matt Stingray, how you doing, buddy? What's going on? Justin Brendan, he is wearing the Panerai 1321 GMT. You have
Yes,
a couple of Panerais, as I
yes.
recall. Mes9 is here. Bigfoot. Oh, I mean, we don't see you, right? I mean, but we see that you're here. I mean, do
The
you
elusive
exist?
Bigfoot has arrived.
Yeah, Bigfoot. Okay. Junior Johnson's here. Danny's here. Mr. LTE is here. Orange Hand, what is up? I like the Chronomaster Sport on the strap. It differentiates it more from they did. They didn't. They didn't. Um, does it come on a strap? No, it only comes on a bracelet, or did it have a
No,
strap?
it comes on a strap. So I think it's like 8,300
Okay.
on a strap. I want to say.
Okay.
Yeah, and it it
Gotcha.
it looks different. I think they put it on a canvas strap. It looks different.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely from the Daytona then.
Yeah. Wayben's here. How you doing? Matt's wearing the DeFi Titanium. Great watch for sure. James is here wearing the Orient Star GMT. Jeffrey, what is up? Wearing his U50 Mother of Pearl.
That's a beautiful watch.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, Rick's wearing his Hovering 2 Irwin Star SJX release. Beautiful watch there. Dave is here. How you doing, Dave? Mr. Jones, all the way from Maryland. How are you? So before we came on, we were talking a little bit. I was letting Chris know what I wanted to talk about, and I'm glad to have him here now. If you guys are not familiar with Chris's channel, there is a link in the description below. But Chris is prolific. I mean, he puts out a lot of content, and he has a very extensive collection. And I love his state of the collection. I love your state of the collection videos, Chris. You do it in a couple of videos. You have a lot of watches in your collection. You cover a lot of bases, and you also cover from affordables all the way to luxury. And so you can just tell that you have been collecting, and you've been a serious collector for a long time. And I'm at a point. I'm like in an inflection point with my collection where I'm down to three. I'm down to the two watches that I bought like in 2005 and 2006, and then I have a Submariner, a Rolex Submariner. And when I got back into collecting a couple of years ago, it was like watching YouTube and getting influenced by some of the influencers, the big influencers. So I was picking up SKXs and Hamilton khaki field mechanicals. Those are popular watches for the new guys, right? And then there was like a whole thought of collect the icons, right? Collect the icons. It's pretty safe, and you get to experience the watches that people have been collecting for years and tout about, right? And so I had thought about that, and I think actually now when thinking about it, I picked up an El Primero a couple years ago, and that's definitely an icon. But I really didn't follow that path until recently, downsizing the collection kind of on purpose, but not really realizing that I'm blowing it all up. And I'm down to that Submariner and those two other watches. And now I'm just kind of just thinking about icons. I have one, right? And I'm thinking Speedmaster, Datejust, and whatnot. And Chris, I'm again, glad to have you here. Talk to me. Was that ever a consideration when you were collecting or starting to collect, and is it a consideration now?
So when I first started collecting, I didn't have a plan. It was pretty much anything that uh, while I was learning, yes, of course, I learned about the sort of icons of the major brands, and the Speed Masters, and of course the Submariners and the Sea Masters and all of that, and I kind of gravitated towards them,
Hmm.
but I couldn't afford them.
Hmm.
So I started. I was a chef. I was making $8 an hour. It wasn't something that I was going to be able to ever afford, really, from that standpoint at that time. So I started collecting mostly Seikos. That's really the biggest sort of you know ticket item that I started collecting.
Hmm.
It was never really on my it was on my radar, but I didn't think I would be able to afford it, doing what I was doing at that point in my life when I started collecting. I didn't think I was going to be able to do it. And fortunately, things change. I was be able to, was starting to be able to afford more expensive watches. Um, and then, we were talking about it just before the live stream. uh, I'm sort of, and we talked about my collection as well. I have one person, and I say this every time I do my state of the collection. One of the comments in my state of the collection, when I first did my first state of the collection, someone from the UK said, "This is a dog's breakfast," and I thought that was hilarious because it's completely true. It's like I just sort of I so I want to own a watch, and this is really my collecting strategy. I want to own a watch from every single brand,
Hmm.
and some brands I want multiple of watches from this brand. So yes, sometimes I focus in on the icons, but if I look at my collection right now, I think I have icons, but I don't have the icons that people hold as the icons.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you mentioned the SKX and the Hamilton khaki field. I mean, I would say those are icons for those brands.
Hmm.
Are they watch icons? Maybe not, because if you show it to your wife or somebody else who's not that into watches, they're going to be like, I don't. That's a Seiko. I don't know what kind of Seiko that is.
Right.
I get that. But if you show them a Rolex, they're a Submariner, they may even know it's a Submariner.
Hmm.
So I guess there's different levels of icons. I've kind of gone that route, and then I've moved away from it. So
Yeah.
I've had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of watches, and I've owned Speedmasters, and the only watch that I've never owned is a Rolex. So
Wow. Wow. That's interesting because you have a lot of watches, man. I mean, and I always find that interesting when people who have big, huge collections. Not that you need to have a Rolex. I mean, it's definitely not like a something that's a requirement. None of this, none of this is required, right? I mean, like, you collect however you want to collect, right? There's no set path. There's no to-do list, that is official. That you enter this club of collecting, you have to get these watches. But I do find it curious. I mean, you got some pieces. You got some like Vacherons and some Panerai. I mean, some heavy duty watches, heavy hitting watches, and you haven't gone the Rolex route. I'm interested to why is that? Because most people get to a point where like they want to try one, right?
it was a few years ago where I think it was around my 40th birthday. It was my 40th birthday. I'm positive of that actually. I kind of decided that I was going to get a Rolex,
Yeah.
and I was going to get a GMT, and I wanted a vintage sort of birth year GMT. So I started shopping around, and I found one that I called AD right over where I live. And I walked in, I talked to them for a little while, and they wanted, I forget, it was a lot of money, but it wasn't what they're asking for now.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, again, like we were saying, I was there, and then I saw a Vacheron Overseas, and I was just like, I could get this for almost the same price as that, maybe a little bit more, and I went with the Overseas.
Yeah.
And ironically, I think that I mean, I think I made the right decision, even though
Hmm.
money wise, I probably didn't at that time. Definitely not recently. Now, Vacherons, for some reason, I mean, for the same reason that everything else is going absolutely bonkers,
Yeah.
Vacherons have gone up in price
Right.
to the point where it's absolutely ridiculous. So
Yeah. Kevin S is saying, Chris's watch philosophy. If it tells time, I'll buy it. Um,
yes, yes, yes.
hey, Chris from the Watch Lounge. Thanks, Chris. Great name, Chris. That's Chris's name as well. The Watch Lounge. So, when you mentioned, and I feel I'm going to be a little bit all over the place here. You mentioned overseas and that going bonkers. Are you no? Have you noticed GP and the Laureato? Um, how that specific model now, the brand is still lagging as it is, but that model now, the Laureato, is starting to catch a little bit fire, right?
Yeah.
Because like all these other watch brands are taking off. Why why is like why is the Laureato like now getting hot? I mean, like in your opinion, I mean, other than just these other brands these other similar integrated bracelet watches are getting hot.
So, do you know who Justin Frost is?
Never heard of them.
I think
No.
he writes for a few different magazines and watch periodicals, basically websites, stuff like that. He recently wrote something for Bloomberg, I think it was, on the overseas, and he was talking about what Vacheron did. Basically,
Hmm.
Vacheron lowered the number of overseas that they were making. They eliminated a bunch of other watches that they were making. So they had other watches in the lineup of the overseas that they eliminated, colorways and stuff like that. They drastically reduced the number of watches that they were making. That actually made, basically, because no one else can get no one can get a Nautilus, no one can get a Royal Oak. So people go to the Vacheron boutique, and then when they saw them in the glass, they were like, "Oh, you guys have them?" They're like, "Yeah, we can sell you one right now." And they're like, "I'll wait for the AP."
Yeah.
That's what's happening.
Wow.
So what they did was, when they did that and they lowered the numbers, that people would show up to the Vacheron boutique and be like, "Do you have the overseas?" And they're like, "Oh no, we're sold out." And then they were like, "Oh, put me on the waiting list."
Yeah.
And then the prices started climbing, and now
Mm.
you want a blue dial, they're going for double, triple, retail now.
Hmm.
I think they
Hmm.
retail for 22,000 for a blue dial, time only. They're going for triple. The overseas world timer that I have is going for, I think, around 10,000 over list price now, which is pretty crazy. I
Right.
mean, to begin with, they're very expensive watches. But getting back to Laureato, what's happening here is there's overspill from all these brands that people are looking for these watches.
Yeah.
And now, especially in the United States, to get a Laureato, it's almost impossible. In the video I just did about GP, and I was talking about a watch that they just recently released, which is a limited edition.
Hmm.
They have, like, if you look at their map, they have 10, maybe
Yeah.
10. I don't, it might be even less than that.
Yeah.
ADs here in the United States. So if you want a ceramic blue dial with the Fume
Hmm.
Laureato, the awesome watch that they just recently came out with, not that long ago. I mean, there's probably 10 in the United States. Where are you going to get it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would see that it does make sense. And also GP, they're an awesome brand. They make
Yeah.
some awesome watches. They have an incredible history, and they've made some pretty awesome innovations in the
Hmm.
watch industry. They weren't one of the original three, but neither was Vacheron.
Right.
I mean, people call them, the original three sports watch. Vacheron wasn't. It wasn't even, it's not a Gerald Genta design. So really, I think that's the reason why. So they're a very good alternative to the Holy Trinity, because of their watchmaking, prowess, and then, of course, they're good looking watches. So
Yeah. I one of the three watches that I have is a GP. It's a Seahawk diver that I bought in 2005, and a few years ago I took it to like the one AD that's like near any in New York State. I mean, I don't know if there's any in New York City, but this one is in Englewood, New Jersey, right?
Okay.
And I went there and I was looking at some Laureatos. Man, this was like 2 years ago. They weren't really offering any kind of like discount on those. I mean, like, maybe 5%, 10%, which for GP is ridiculous. I mean, like they're practically giving away those watches,
Yeah.
the other watches. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
with the Laureato, there it wasn't, and I wasn't trying hard, but they weren't really, too keen on making a deal on my terms. And I noticed, and I've been noticing that over the last couple of years that in the pre-owned market, they weren't taking as much of a hit, on the secondary. But now, they've exploded, and somebody had mentioned it's one of the reasons is because of the TPG. He did he was touting them, and then kind of you saw a spike in demand for those GPs, but for the Laureatos. But
I
yeah,
really hope that's not the reason. I really hope that's not the reason.
I,
But
I really hope that's not the reason either. But I think it's part of the calculus, right? I don't know how big part of the calculus is, but it's part of it.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, I've owned a few GPs in my day. They were world timers. I'm a world timer. I love
mhm.
world timers. World timer chronograph, one of the most underrated watches from GP, I think, and they sell for you could. I mean, on eBay, if you you know 500 500
5,000.
$5,000, and
Yeah,
it's
stainless steel.
basically a $20,000 watch. I
Yeah.
mean, and
Hmm.
any other brand who produces anything near to that is charging, $20,000. So,
Yeah.
in-house movement, just, they're on the bigger side, 43 millimeters, but I mean,
Yeah.
they're just awesome watches. I had a,
Awesome watches.
yeah,
I love GP. I love a couple of brands a couple of models that are discontinued, especially the Richeville.
yes,
But
very cool.
and you could find those, pretty much on eBay all over the place.
Yeah,
But I always feel like with that, like I'm tempted to buy, but I'm like, they're always going to be there.
yeah,
They're not going to catch fire, I don't think.
yeah,
Even though like a lot of other watches and models have started catching fire, and it's in a surprising way.
yeah.
And so we have a couple people here mentioning Moser, and whether that's hot or not. Um, I don't know. Is there anything that any brand in specific that we're not thinking of, or maybe we have been, but it's just not,
So Moser,
really.
I have noticed that, you know, I have noticed prices go up on them, and I've always wanted to own a Moser, the Pioneer Center Seconds, the
Hmm.
this sort of sport watch,
Hmm.
um, and those have gone up, which is really annoying. I think that in general, most watches have been really, you know, anything that is remotely semi expensive, they've just gone up. Like
Yeah.
Speedmasters, and I've noticed the prices on even the Seamasters. Everything has gone up. Everything has gone up. Seamasters, Speedmasters. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Aquaterras. I mean, I know that's part of the
yeah,
Seamaster line, but those have been going up too. Rick saying there's one hot Moser, the rest are dogs. They introduce a stupid perpetual with instructions written on the dial. Enough of the shtick.
yeah. That's what
Uh,
they do. That's their
yeah,
thing.
that's their thing, right?
Yeah.
Um, Joey B saying I think Watchbox either had just sold a bunch of Mosers or pulled a bunch from the site. 2 weeks ago they had over 60 listed. Last night they had 40.
Yeah.
So there's some thoughts that Watchbox was trying to manipulate the Moser market there.
Do you
Um,
get emails from Watchbox and
um,
and
Via
they say
eBay or
what'd you say?
via eBay. I get stuff from Watchbox via eBay.
No, I'm talking
Uh,
about like so on a few times I've contacted Watchbox about a watch, and I'll be
Yeah.
like, "Hey, do you have this watch?" And almost it's been, I'm friends with a few people at Watchbox, so I feel bad saying this, but I have to say it because I've contacted them a few times, and I'm like, "Hey, do you have this watch?" And they'll be like, "No, we don't have that watch, but we have another one, and it costs this much. That one is sold." And I'm like, "Okay, wait. I asked you about this watch. It costs 4,500, but you're telling me you have
Yeah.
another one for 5,500, and it's the exact same photo." Are you shitting me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not. I wasn't born yesterday, but okay, they've done that to me, no problem. So they have my email address because I've contacted them a few times. I get emails from them, and they are constantly, they're saying, not only do they say, "Oh, we have this in stock," but they also send emails saying, "We are buying this.
Mm-hmm.
We are
Mm-hmm.
buying
I get
that."
those too. Yep.
And I 100% think those are hype emails, because what they're trying to do is say, if you have a Snoopy Speedmaster, we'll buy it from you for top dollar. Meanwhile, they're not going to give you top dollar,
Nah.
but what they're going to do is that influences everybody who sees that email from. They have a huge email, basically pool, and what that does is people look at that and they're like, "Oh, the Snoopy is already hot. It must be getting hotter because Watchbox wants to buy it."
Yeah.
So they could justify adding another 5 grand on top of the price, because that's what they do. They create the hype. So
Yeah.
they've done that with a few brands.
It's possible. I mean, I see what you're saying there, and I think it makes a whole lot of sense. I also think, and I could be wrong about this, but I get, and Kevin's here saying that he gets texts and emails from Watchbox all the time, and almost every day from Crown and Caliber, always offering, especially Crown and Caliber, like 250 here or 350 here. Um, I get contacted from Watchbox via eBay, with like a $500 off this watch that you're looking at. I also have this sense, and I don't know if it's because of what's going on in the world um, lately and with inflation and whatnot, that a lot of these gray market dealers are kind of getting nervous with having a ton of inventory, and maybe they're seeing something down the road that's about to happen, and they don't want to be stuck holding the bag. Do you get that sense? Am I crazy or?
I think that, uh, hmm, I don't know if I agree with that 100%,
Mhm.
but yeah, I can see what you're saying. Um, I, there are definitely places like Watchbox and a few other gray market dealers that are hoarding certain watches,
Yeah.
and then affecting the price on those watches,
Mhm.
and then slowly unloading those watches. Um, and with the with the possibility of nuclear war, I mean, I giggle when I say it, but I mean, it's like the crap that's going on in the world right now, and we could be going to war. I don't know. I said this when COVID started, and I was like, I don't think that the prices of watches are going to continue to escalate. And I was wrong.
Yeah.
I was dead wrong. And it
Well,
was
you look like you were right for the first couple of months, right? I mean, I think
right for
everybody
the first
predicted
year.
that. In the first couple of months, it kind of like looked like, you can get people were getting good deals, and then after like month 3 or 4, it just
It was
started.
it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous, and it's not stopped since. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, maybe you're right. Maybe you're wrong. I don't know. That
Yeah.
it's been a crazy ride with all these prices that have just skyrocketed, and there's no rhyme or reason. There's people there, like, uh, I forget who I follow. I follow a few people on Instagram. One of them is waitlisted, and
Hmm.
he
Yeah.
he takes, I see him out all the time when I go to the events here in New York City. He takes great photos. He
Yep.
takes some incredible photos, and he was shooting a Tiffany 5711, and it was the guy who bought the 5711 through that auction,
Yeah.
and he paid $6 million
Hmm.
for a watch that cost $39,000 retail. They're charging $59,000. I just don't,
Yeah.
I don't know. I was looking at it, and I was just like, and he was doing a photo shoot because he got a Tiffany basketball,
Yeah.
There's Tiff. I was just like, I don't know how much you paid for a stupid basketball, but I was looking at it and I was just like, this guy. I mean, I just can't comprehend spending that much money on a watch that retailed for that much. I have no. I just can't get past that. I wouldn't be able to do it.
Yeah, and I think this kind of brings up an interesting point. We're specifically talking about that Tiffany. And I had this conversation with a couple of friends of mine. This is not an original idea by me, but that we kind of have to make a shift here with some of these watches and some of these like brands. For example, like an FP Journe, that we had to start looking at this at more like art, right? That it's no longer a timepiece that you're wearing. People are looking to spend money, right? And put it into things. And people, a lot of people do it with art. And I think what people are starting to do now, if they can't get the art pieces that they want, I think some people are they may also have an interest in watches, are looking at some of these pieces like that Tiffany Patek, like something from FP Journe, or any of these, like, very um, uh, sought after independents. They're looking at it as pieces of art now, and maybe they won't wear it. Maybe they'll just hang it on the wall. Or who knows what they will do? But I mean, like, that's crazy spending all that kind of money on a Tiffany uh, um Paddock. I mean, if he has the money, great. I don't know what the backstory on that individual is or not, but it just seems like there's a whole lot of money out there. I wish I knew how I could get some of that money. But I think there's a shift here on how people are looking at these high end pieces now, and I
Right.
think that's part of it.
It's the thing about art, though. Usually, if you're buying an original piece of art, it's an original piece of one of a kind art.
Hmm.
When you're
Yeah,
buying a Tiffany blue dial 5711, there are 175 or 120. I don't remember how many they made. They made a
yeah,
bunch of them.
yeah.
So Leonardo DiCaprio has one,
But
and
that's the selling point, right?
yeah,
Leonardo DiCaprio has one of
yeah,
these.
I get what you're saying. So it's the elite,
Yeah,
sort of being that that the elite have the watch, and I want to be like them. I guess, but this guy who paid $6 million for it is basically some guy who has $6 million who's not famous for any other reason
yeah,
except for the fact that he bought a watch that cost $6 million.
right,
So hey, more power to him. I guess
right.
it's not that I'm jealous, although I am slightly jealous. I would never buy that watch for six
Mm,
million dollars, but I would buy like 50 watches,
mhm.
and that would be I would be happy as hell. Of course, I would just invest $6 million and
Right,
buy
exactly.
any of that. But anyway, but I'm just saying, like this.
Yeah. Tax benefit on it, right? I mean, it was for charity, right? So there is a tax benefit, I
Yeah.
presume. Um, Scott saying the large gray market dealers are venture cap backed. Venture cap firms have their money in the market. The market is moving to STD in both directions every day. Somebody buy my watch NFT. I'll Photoshop it on a monkey. um, I get the art thing as it comes to Journe or highly bespoke watches. I don't get it at all with the Nautilus. Fair enough. Um, See you,
Talking
Chris.
about
Have a good one.
bracelets, the Nautilus bracelet,
Hmm.
it's horrible. Have
Yeah.
you ever? I mean, have you ever put one on your wrist?
No, no, I've never had the pleasure of putting a Nautilus on my wrist. No.
It's I'm sorry, micro brands do a better job.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
buy a Manta,
yeah.
a Manta has a bracelet that is 50 times better than a Nautilus. I'm sorry, I
Right.
just had to say that. I know you're going through the comments,
No,
but
no, 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 no. I'm with you. I mean, it is surprising. Look, I mean, like, come on, Seiko. I mean, enough with the stamped class on a $700 $800 diver when a $300 micro brand can do a great job on a class. I get it. I get it.
yeah.
Um, and now we're talking like a Nautilus. with a terrible class, right?
Yeah.
Um, he's a billionaire, but that watch is still gross. Okay.
Yes.
Uh, Neff is saying I'd rather have one of the first 100 Datejust or a bespoke VC or anything, but an ugly three-hand date. Beans and bezels. Hey, he bought the ability to get a bunch of other desirable Tiffany Patek's down the road at retail or minimal premiums. Okay.
It's a good
Uh,
point. That's a good point. I mean, it's like buying from one AD, and then I mean, but it's still $6 million.
I know it's still
It's not worth
$6 million.
it.
Just a yeah. Um, Christian is saying, Bobby, you need to get a '90s, early 2000s Breguet, JLC, or Patek. Sure. Yeah. Okay. I can get. Speaking of like we were talking before about icons, JLC, a Reverso, right? That's an icon. That's definitely an icon. Have you ever had one of those, Chris?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. My wife has one as well.
Oh, nice, nice. Um, Justin, the only Tiffany I respect gracefully bowed out of the '80s like a classy woman she is. Oh yeah, I wish we. I wish we were alone now. It wasn't even her song, right? I mean, she covered that.
Yeah.
But it was she did a good job. She did.
Yes. I just have a big crush on Tiffany.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
She was cute. Debbie Gibson, a little bit more talented, not as cute as Tiffany,
No.
but she had at least some original songs for
Mhm.
sure. Kylie Minogue, um, very hot. All right, okay. Detroit Spartan. He already owns a bunch of Tiffany dial Pateks. Most likely has the best collection of them all in the world. Um, yeah, maybe Uncle Seiko will make an aftermarket class for the in-laws. That's a great idea, Neff. Um, Pressed metal sounds like Bobby Legs' favorite genre. Yeah, sure. I love metal. Pressed metal. Why not? Um, Now you'd mentioned that you were at an event. I followed you on Instagram, and you could also find Chris's Instagram and in the description. You go to a lot of events, man. Like when they have them. How are they? I'm curious. I'm kind of like, still a little wary, and hopefully that changes after a while. I think everything. I think we're on the better side of things when it comes to COVID. How are those events, man? I miss them. I want to go to some.
They're awesome. So I'm part of Red Bar. So I've done a couple of Red Bar events, and they're actually, I think Norcane. There's an event this weekend. I'm gonna see if I can go. It's a
Yeah.
brunch. Um, I went to Worn and Wound, the release of the recent Seiko 5,
Yeah.
and that was really cool. The release there, the party was great. Have you ever heard of Patrick Marilat? He
No.
used to have a YouTube channel, and I actually met him there. He works for Worn and Wound now. It's just I
Oh,
was
did he do didn't he
taking
partner up with?
time.
Yeah, yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
So he actually works there. He does all the photography and stuff like that. So he was actually one of the YouTube channels that I followed when I
Yeah.
first started watching YouTube channels. And
Right.
he was just like standing there. I was like, "Are you Patrick Maryland?" And he's like, "Yeah." I was like, "I used to follow your YouTube channel. Why'd you
Yeah.
stop?" And he's just
Yeah.
like, "I got a job at Worn and Wound." And I was like, "But you create great videos,
Yeah. Yeah.
so it's really cool because you get to meet awesome people. Like I said, Waitlisted is one of them. Loom Shot. These guys
Mhm.
are they're so Waitlisted on Instagram, Loom Shot on YouTube.
Yep. He's great
Does
too.
some really cool, and he's a big Vacheron guy as well.
Mm.
Does some really cool videos on modding Seiko,
Mhm.
stuff like that.
Mhm.
These are all guys that live in the New York area, and they're always at these events. They're at like every single event,
Yeah.
and I get invited to some of them. I don't get invited to all of them.
Yeah.
So, and some of them you don't need to be invited. Like that Worn and Wound event, you could have just got on by yourself, but the events are awesome. The only thing is that no one wears a mask.
Mhm.
So if you're not
Yeah.
into that, you're not going to have a good
Yeah.
time. So
No,
that's
I
it.
hear you.
But there's food and drinks. So
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Speaking of that last event that Warren One, a friend of mine was there, and they picked up one of those Seikos, and he sent it over to me. Did you get a chance to check it out?
yeah,
That
I
Seiko
bought it. I
5?
bought it when I was there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a pretty cool watch,
it
man.
is. Yeah, they did a good job with it.
They did
It's
a
sold out.
Yeah, sold out. Super impressed by it. Love the design, and I guess that's where Warner One, I guess, came in there with the influence on the design. I don't know how much, you know, power they have. I mean, but anyway,
No,
and
Zach is the guy who designs their watch. Like he does the collaborations.
yeah,
So he did like the Christopher Ward,
yeah,
the field watches that they did,
yeah,
which those never really actually sold out because they're actually on the more expensive side, but they're beautiful watches in person.
yeah,
Anyway, this he did a really good job. Sold out.
yeah.
Sold out.
No, no doubt. I mean, for a hot minute when they put it on the site, I think there were some available and they were just gone. I don't know if they saved a couple for the website. But man, I mean, like, for I think it was 325.
Mhm.
Um, Good looking watch. It felt great on wrist. I was able to do a little review on it. I think I'm putting it out tomorrow, and really really enjoyed that watch. I was like, oh man, that's like the one of the first Seikos in a long time that I was like really kind of like, that's really good. I mean, it's a collaboration, of course, but I'm like, wow, I was very very impressed. Yeah, Kevin was there, and met 911 Dan.
Yeah, I met Kevin S. there actually.
Yeah,
Kevin
yeah,
S. and 911 Den. We actually met. So that's what I was saying. It was really it was really good to go out because I met really cool people. Like,
yeah, yeah, absolutely, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, Kevin was the one that sent me this watch. It was
Oh, all
awesome.
right. He's the one who
Yeah,
bought it. He bought it
yeah,
also. I said
yeah,
we were
yeah,
talking for like a half hour, 45 minutes, just about watches in general. So
yeah, yeah.
awesome.
Kevin's a good guy, and so is Dan. Um, let's see here. Dan and Kevin rock up all the Grand Seiko events. Oh yeah, those guys love Grand Seiko too, for sure. Um, yeah. So yeah, I mean, I'm dying to go to. Last October, there was a couple events, and watch time I think it was, and I had bought the ticket, and then like it just got a little hairy. And at the time, I mean, I got a 5 and a 3-year old, right? So like I was um, vaccinated and whatnot, as they weren't at the time, and it's just like I know they're supposed to be better able to fight off stuff, but I just don't want to take that chance and then have to live with myself for the rest of the life. But I'm probably being overcautious. I'm just looking forward to the day where I can go out, go to New York City, and go to some watch events and meet you guys.
Watch Week in New York. It's become Watch Week now. It's a Watch Weekend. It's in October.
Yeah.
It's over the over
Hmm.
this year it was the 22nd. Next year, whatever. I think it's going to be probably around the same time. Worn and Wound and the Wind Up Shop,
Hmm.
they're upsizing this year, and
Yeah.
they're
Oh,
actually
nice.
moving to a much bigger venue. They're going to have many more brands there as well. So they're going to have dozens of brands rather than just a
Yeah.
handful. And then Watch Time, of course, is just a big event at Gotham Hall, which is awesome. It's just an
Yeah.
awesome time. I
Yeah.
actually take off from work. I go I go Friday, Saturday. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, you don't work in a city though, right? You work
I
in
work in the city. Yeah,
yeah. Okay. You do. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, yeah. Working in a city is great. I used to work in a city. It's a good time. So what do you anything on your radar?
So you were talking about you were talking about the Dan 911 and
Yeah.
911 Dan and Kevin S and Grand Seiko. When I was at that event, I was actually wearing a Grand Seiko that was lent to me as well,
Hmm.
and it was the 20th anniversary limited edition chronograph, and I actually loved that watch so much that I bought a Grand Seiko. It's my first Grand Seiko,
Yeah.
so I know you know I bought a weird one. So I bought I think it's the SBGB 003, which is a chronograph, and it's in stainless steel.
Oh,
And
okay.
it's a
Hmm.
really
Yeah.
weird watch. So
Yeah.
when we talk about icons, it's like the least iconic. It's like it's just a weird watch though,
Yeah.
and um, so that's on my radar. But one watch that has always been on my radar, and there's a few reasons why I don't buy it, but and I genuinely think if I don't get distracted this time, the next watch I will buy will be a 50 fathoms. I have a Waltham Bathyscoph, the
Hmm.
50 fathoms
Yeah.
It's the same, watch except with just Waltham on the dial. But I will buy a 50 fathoms this year, I hope. And I just have to find the right one. I want to get
Yeah.
a 40 millimeter version. I don't want a 45 millimeter version. So that's my biggest problem. So
Have you
um,
tried on both?
yeah, I
Yeah.
meter for me works on my wrist,
Mm,
um, but I think it's going to be uncomfortable.
yeah. Okay. Okay.
So I want to get, and I think that's like, for me, that's an iconic watch. And
Yeah.
since
Yeah. For sure.
I'm not incredibly into Rolex, and
Yeah.
I'm not gonna, spend the extra money over list price for a Rolex unless an AD wants to, help me out. Um, I would, I think that the 50 fathoms is really, it's something that I love the history on. There's a great video from the Horological Society of New York on the history of the 50 fathoms. And if you are interested remotely in the 50 fathoms, it's it's such a good video to watch. It's
Yeah.
really interesting.
Yeah.
Uh, anyway, so they go through everything.
Nice. I'll definitely check it out. Chris, did you buy anything off of Bai?
No, Bai's is a sort of a, it's like an intermediary between like Japanese websites
Mm-hmm.
that you can actually
Gotcha.
buy, and it's like a auction site that Dan actually introduced me to.
Yeah.
I haven't bought anything off of it yet because I just bought, like I said, I just bought that Grand Seiko, so I have to, I have to slow down a little bit. So
I haven't jumped into the Grand Seiko pool, and there was a point last year when I was like considering Grand Seiko, but I got to be honest with you, I'm kind of like burnt out with especially with all the releases this year, like the
cool.
constant bombardment. So like I'm like I have no idea what to like pick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Um,
Again, we were talking about it with I was talking about it with Kevin S and Dan. Seiko crazy, man. They'll come out with. I found a watch that I liked, and it's a Seiko. It was a Brights. It's like an older watch, and I was looking at the number on it, and I was like, I did a search for it, and it was like ended in 17. I was like, I wonder if there are other models that are in this, So I just put 15 in instead of 17, and then another model showed up, and then 13, and then 11, and then 9, and it was just like endless numbers, endless dials. They constantly are churning, but people are
I know.
buying them, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't do it for no reason. They buy them. So
Yeah. Absolutely.
yeah,
Neff is saying the 50 fathoms is like a Ferrari with square wheels. They have that icon and refuse to make it wearable unless it's a limited edition. They would make a fortune if they made it at 42.
I agree. I 100% agree with that. The Ferrari with square wheels, I've never heard that before, but it's a very good analogy
Yeah,
because why make it in 40, 45,
I know.
46 millimeters?
Mm,
It's not wearable for most people's wrists.
right,
It's wearable for people with larger wrists. So I
right.
get it, but make another size that's readily available. And I don't want the Bathyscoph. I want a 50
Yeah, yeah,
pound.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that's the problem.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Just say, BP could dominate the game with a human-sized 50 fathoms. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
curious. It's curious. I got
Yeah.
to be honest.
Yeah.
James says I buy a lot, too much, through Buy and other proxy buying services.
Wow.
So more
Well, let me
votes
ask
for
you a
that.
question.
Yeah.
So this is something that I've actually noticed with specifically Swatch Group watches.
Mm,
And so we're talking about the 50 fathoms, right?
hmm
They have a 45 millimeter. You want one, you get a 45 millimeter one.
hmm
If you have a 7.5 inch wrist like I do, I think it looks big on my wrist. I can't imagine someone with a 6.5 inch wrist
Yeah.
wearing that and looking down and not saying this looks a little odd on my wrist.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe, I don't
Yeah.
want to insult anybody, but that's how I would feel.
Yeah. Yeah.
But let's move over to so that's their high end, right?
hmm
Let's talk about their lower end,
hmm
TISO,
hmm
which I think is probably one of their lowest ends,
hmm
fully Swiss made, automatic,
hmm
nice watch, right? That's their entry level. If you want a Tissot C Star 1000, 43 millimeters.
Hmm.
They finally come out with a smaller one. They make it in 36 millimeters.
Yeah.
What the what? And then they came out with another one last year, 46 millimeters. So what? Where are what? Who is coming up with these sizes? But then if you go to any other of their brands, you talk about I'm sorry, I'm just like
Yeah. No, no.
Hamilton. You want
Yeah.
a dive watch from Hamilton? 43 millimeters. You want a
Yeah.
dive watch from Certina? 43 millimeters. If you
Yeah.
want a dive watch from, just go through all of the
Hmm.
brands. They don't make a small dive watch,
Hmm.
and not even small. Now they're making small dive watches, but then they're going all the way down to 36 mil. Where? Why can't we come out with a 40 millimeter watch, a 41 millimeter watch? What? Why?
I, I don't know. That's a good question. The Swatch Group is very interesting in a whole lot of levels, right? I mean, they have these brands like Blancpain and Breguet, and they don't even spend like a buck to like to market them. Like Breguet is like one of the classic brands of all time that's ever existed, right? And like, and you'll never see anybody in the wild wearing a Breguet, right? I mean,
No.
like we know Breguet because we're watch nerds, but not many people do, and they're sitting on a potential like um, independent watch killer, right? Because you have the finishing and the quality of of some of these they're just beautiful made watches, and just they just do nothing. They just baby Omega, and that seems like that's all they do.
Talk about icon. I mean, okay, we're, disregard Omega, because I think Omega is an anomaly for the Swatch Group.
Mm.
But an icon, Breguet has the Type 20,
Hmm.
and they refuse to also. They make it in a 40 millimeter. I don't know if they still make it in the 40 millimeter, but they also make it in 43. Everything is 43 with them.
Mm.
I don't know where they get this number, why they like that 43 number. Someone must have said somewhere, you know what, 43 is the number, and they're
Yeah,
like, okay, everybody,
yeah,
43.
yeah.
But that watch, when you're looking at a Speedmaster, really one of the best watches that you can get through the Swatch Group is that Type 20. We talk about history.
Mm.
It helped win World War. Well, it didn't help win the French watch, but
Right.
I mean, it was,
Yeah.
they surrendered, but that's
Right.
fine. It was a very important watch during World War II.
Yeah.
And just a really cool watch with a great history that, again, they don't sell very well in the secondary market. No one really even knows about them.
Mm.
Well, people know about them, but not enough.
Yeah. The Brigade Marine, that model,
Oh,
that model line is beautiful.
yeah.
I don't get it. I don't get it either. The 43, there must be some ratio to human to wrist that 43 is like, oh yeah, that's it. I don't get it either.
Yeah.
Um, Detroit Spartan just waiting for the next textured colored Dow GS. The suspense is killing me. I think he's joking.
Yeah. Inspired
Uh,
by the forest of
right, 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 right.
off the highway in
Yeah,
Kyoto.
yeah. Hi, Bobby, big fan. Not gonna say it. Not gonna say it, DN. Not gonna say it. Hey, what's up, Dirk? How you doing, man? Um, Chris, is your logo based on the blank pane water indicator of the 50 fathoms? Yep.
Yes,
Okay.
that's what this is right there.
Very
That's the
nice.
moisture indicator that you would find on a 50 fathoms vintage.
Nice. Maple Leaf background for us Canucks. Cheers, Bobby Legs. Maple Leaf. Is there a maple leaf back here? Do you have a maple leaf? No. Okay.
Not really. It's more
Yeah.
of an oak.
Yeah.
More of an oak.
Okay. Um. Oh, Detroit Spartan's really cutting into GS. Has anyone seen a GS? They all look the same. Okay. Okay. Uh, Swatch moves in increments of 10 millimeters.
Right.
Uh,
Very good point.
Mike saying, I feel that the 50 fathoms were smaller than the 45 millimeter. Wrist size is 7 1/4. I have the titanium grand date and don't think it wears too big, in my opinion.
like I said, I mean, if you could pull it off, then
Hmm.
absolutely. I find myself, even when I wear Panerais these days, and I'm big Panerai. I love Panerai. I find my wrist, I find it uncomfortable a little bit.
Mm,
You know, when you get over 45 millimeters or
yeah.
around 45 millimeters,
Hmm.
I feel a little bit uncomfortable. Did
Yeah.
you keep your Panerai or did
Oh yeah,
you?
yeah. I still have it. I mean, yeah. I mean, that's not going anywhere. Um, I always flirt with the idea of picking up some more Panerai. I just like Panerai. I
Yeah.
don't know why. I just like I like the ETA movement Panerais. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like from the 2000s, early 2000s. Love to pick up a submersible one day. Um, yeah, and then the pricing's always good on those old ones.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I have a titanium on a bracelet with the Valjoux
mhm,
movement, which is
mhm.
they remove the chronograph
Yeah,
function with just the Valjoux, and it's just a date
yeah,
and 300 meters titanium. It's really scuffed up because
yeah,
I wore that watch a lot. My wife actually got me that watch when we got married, so um, I love that watch.
yeah. My Luminor was like my travel watch for years. I mean, I just love. I mean, like it's 44, right? And I have a 6 3/4, but I mean, it doesn't wear like that. I mean,
No,
the lugs are short, and it's titanium case, and um, yeah, I love the Panerai.
yeah.
Let's see here. Let's get another couple of comments in before we call it. I see a lightning bolt behind Chris. Does he have an infamous David Bowie watch?
No, it's right there, right? Yeah, that lights up. I didn't light it up.
um, KR Joy saying, Chris, thanks for turning me on to the not ATC 40. Bought the 21 LE WNE 88. Love it. Uh,
So he's talking about a watch that I actually reviewed on the channel, um, which was a really not well known micro brand who make their watches in Japan.
mhm.
Actually, have their cases made by Grand Seiko, and they put a Seiko movement in it. So you're getting a Grand Seiko made
Yeah.
case with a Seiko movement. It's NE88, which is the 8R 48 basically
Mhm. Mhm.
movement, which is a column wheel clutch column wheel vertical clutch movement. So um,
Mm.
and I
What's
think
the?
they sell them for like $1,100,
I was gonna
where
ask you what the pricing was.
yeah,
Yeah.
$1,100.
Yeah. Not bad.
Yeah,
Not bad.
they're really nice actually.
Yeah. Well, man, Chris, we're coming up to the 10 o'clock hour. I really appreciate you coming on, man, and let's try to figure out a way that you can come on more often because I feel like we always have some really good discussions and probably have a lot more to talk about too. Um,
I always join your live streams as often as I can.
yeah.
I love the discussions. Anytime you want to have me on, man,
Yeah.
you let me know. I'm willing and able. I
You
like,
got.
you know, I like our discussions because I think we're kind of on
Hmm.
the same level
Hmm.
when we're like not level. I don't mean that, but I mean like we're kind of like in the same wavelength. That's what I
Yeah.
mean.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Where we are collecting sort of ideas and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. What do you have? What do you got going on in the channel in the next couple days?
I have no idea. I make a video a day almost. So
Yeah.
tomorrow I'm going to be doing a review of a watch that I just recently purchased, which was a Seiko.
Hmm.
That's a Brights, which is an automatic chronograph. Blah blah
Hmm.
blah.
Hmm.
And then this weekend, I haven't really thought about what I'm going to do yet, but I'll have some videos.
Yeah. Very nice. Looking forward to that. And chat, thank you so much for tuning in tonight and participating. We'll get Chris back on the show soon, and have a good night. We'll see you guys next week. Take care.
Thanks, guys.